Welcome to Punchboard Paradise, coming to you from the heartland of America in Omaha, Nebraska, where we discuss the world of tabletop gaming, the topics that affect the board game community, and give honest and fair reviews of the industry's hottest games. In episode 64, the Punchboarders talk about some recent plays, head on over to the Mailbag for some questions, and finally draft our favorite expansion games. Hey everybody, I'm Clef.
Hey, I'm Chad.
Nah, I'm Richie.
You know, I'm always glad to see you guys, but I kind of wonder what I'm doing here right now, because right now, football started up again. Football's on the TV.
I didn't even know that.
Football's on the TV.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I was just excited he finally brought us our honey.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
Yes, thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron.
And you should thank me from wrestling it away from my wife, because she wanted to keep it all.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ever going to trust Stephanie again then. Well, it's scary here.
That's maybe a good idea, but yeah, it was great, honey, so thank you.
No, but seriously, I didn't know football was back.
No, I didn't either. I have not turned on TV in a long time.
It is opening night pro football. The Kansas City Chiefs are playing the Houston Texans tonight, so the reigning Super Bowl champs. So it's a nice little season opener.
Huh.
We'll see.
So obviously, they're just playing in their home stadiums, or?
I believe so. I wanted to turn it on and see, like, did they
How they're doing everything.
Because everybody does that thing differently with putting people in the background. And
I like the cutouts are my favorite.
Yeah,
of all of them. I like the cutouts. I don't like the NBA, the live
those virtual
streaming
fans
people
are
in. I don't
weird.
like that.
That is weird. I do think it's really funny though too, like how sometimes, like in baseball, the pitchers or different players will be out there in the stands with the cardboard cutouts. It almost feels like where's Waldo? You're like, there's a real one.
Yeah. For football, like in baseball, I don't think the crowds make as big a difference because baseball's just not that type of sport. But football, it's going to be weird.
Football is weird, especially college football.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, if we get to see it. But yeah, it's going to be weird without the crowd.
Yeah, that's just such a part of football that's I don't know. That's just hard to watch.
Has there ever been like announcers for board game championships? I know, like, they have, like, like they have pandemic competitions and stuff. Like, I would love to see like a golf announcer or something for like a board game.
Wow, he just drew the scientist. Yeah, I think he might play it.
There's a Great Western Trails Championship that they do commentate on it.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, that
is a thing.
Oh, he's going for the book track, Cotton. Yep. Let's see how that pays off for him.
Oh boy. Oh my God, he just played that building. No!
Let's see a replay of where it all went wrong.
I think this could be our future, guys.
I would watch it.
Oh boy. All right. So, Chad, how about what have we been playing here? What do you got going on?
Well, I have had a couple of plays of Alma Mater, which just came in, but I won't talk about that too much, kind of as a teaser, because I think it might be something we review in the future, or else I'll at least talk at great length. I'm going to go lighter because I know you guys got the heavier end of the spectrum covered. The only reason I'm talking about this one, though, is because I think people might want to hear a little bit about it because it won the Spiel des Jahres this year. And that is a kind of a party game called Pictures. Pictures came out in 2019, so last year, and again, that made it eligible for this year's Spiel des Jahres. It is from Christian Store and Daniela Store, and it plays 3 to 5 players, and it's a kind of a quick party-ish game in the same way that Dixit might be considered a party game, okay? The reason I picked this up, our local board game cafe, Spielbound, is the only one that had this. I mean, this was the only place in town that had it. And online too. I mean, because you just really can't find this game right now. But my family really loves Dixit, and I've gotten kind of tired of Dixit, but they really love Dixit. This is kind of like a mashup between Code Names and Dixit, basically. So you have these decks of cards, right, that are photographs of all kinds of different things. And you lay them out in I believe it's like a 5x5 grid, like Code Names, okay? And that grid has you put little letters by it, A, B, C, D on one, and then on the rows, and then over the top on columns, you just number it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what you're doing then is you pull these chits out of a bag, each person does, and they secretly look at it. So they see that their chit is like A3, which corresponds to a picture in that grid, right? And then you proceed to take one of the materials that is in the game and try to make that picture. So you have 2 shoelaces, you have a small card deck made of just various kind of icons and symbols. You have a picture frame that holds 9 cubes of different colors, and you arrange the cubes in different colors, like almost like a pixelated version of the image. You have 2 very thin, small, short dowel sticks, and then like 4 or 5 just random river rocks. So those kinds of things you're using to create this picture, basically. And then just like Dixit would be, you're going to get a point for everybody that gets yours right, and then you're going to get a point for everybody's that you got right as well. And you're just doing this like 4 or 5 times to use all the implements around the table, and then you score it, basically. So it's a simple game, but it's a fun little party game, and my family really likes it. Actually, my son loves it the most because, honestly, he likes it fine, but he just likes watching Stephanie and I go at it when we're like, what? I can't believe that doesn't look anything like that. How could you even think that, so that kind of argument goes on. But it's a fun little light game. And so for people that like Dixit, but they're also kind of artistically inclined, it's a fun little game. I can see why it won.
That's good to hear. I actually picked it up when it won, just on a whim, and I never opened it. It's just sitting on the shelf at the moment. So I'm glad you actually liked it. So I'll keep it around probably.
Yeah, and honestly, in a year or two, probably Knox could even do it. You know what I mean? It's it's sort of a thing. I mean, Finn used to play Dixit when he was about Knox's age and just make up nonsense words, and we still had a good time with it. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is pictures. What about you? What did you play, Cliff?
Well, this is starting to be a trend here of games that I didn't like the first time I played them, and now years later I come back and go, what the heck was that older version of me thinking?
I like this.
Maybe that's what new segment we're going to have on the podcast is what the
really
heck was I
turn
thinking?
it into a segment.
Right? I think that's also otherwise known as our Punchboard previous plays.
So the other day, our good friend Dan, who obviously I've heard many times on this podcast, came over and he's like, you got to play this game. And he put down a copy of Twilight Struggle. And I'm like, I played this about 3 years ago, played it one time, just wasn't really my jam. I didn't really get it. Now, granted, back then, I was trying to learn it myself. I didn't know, really what was going on. It was kind of a new type of game for me. So whatever, I sold it, right? So anyways, so he's like, we're going to play it. And I'm like, I don't want to play this. I don't like this game. I don't want to play it. He's like, we're going to play it. So I'm like, fine. So of course we start to play it, and I'm in about 2 rounds into it. And all of a sudden I said to him, I go, I hate you. And he goes, what? Why? I go, this game's awesome. I was like, I didn't want to like this game. And for those of you who don't know anything about Twilight Struggle, it's basically a 2-player game where one player is playing the USA and one player is playing the USSR. And it's a kind of an area control game where you're using cards, and the cards can either be used as operation points to affect different countries' level of kind of whether they're with the U.S. or whether they're with the USSR, or you can use them as events. However, whenever you use a card as a event that's one of your opponent's event, like if you're using it for the operational points, it still always triggers for your opponent. So you got to be real careful. And sometimes you can have a really bad hand because you'll have, if you're the U.S., you might have a whole hand of the USSR, right? So when I first played this back in the day, I was thought, well, this is so stupid. I mean, I'm getting unlucky and I'm just drawing a bunch of USSR cards and this is terrible. Well, now, I mean, maybe I've gotten smarter since then. I don't know. But probably not. But anyways, there's so much more that you can kind of manipulate as for the game. And there's ways where some cards might be Russian cards, but if you use them in the right spot, they're not as devastating to you. Plus, you can always use them for the space race, which is just a thing that you can go up. It's the only time an event doesn't trigger. But anyways, I was loving this game. It is a wonderful back and forth, trying to figure out the right time to kind of do this move. You do these things called coups that you can do where it removes certain amount of, the points or whatever that each country has. But when you do it, if you do it in a battleground state, it moves up the DEFCON level. So you start at 5, and you move down. And if it's ever at DEFCON 2, and if you ever have to do something that makes it go down, you actually start World War III or a nuclear war, and that person loses the game. So obviously you'll never do a coup when it's in that spot, but there may be an event that might trigger it and make you do it. So it's very, very interesting. It's wonderfully done. You have these scoring cards that if you have one of them in your hand, you have to play it that round, but you can kind of try to manipulate. So if you start noticing your opponent really going after a certain area, you might start thinking in your head, ooh, they might have that scoring card. So then you start trying to fight for that area, but maybe they're just trying to bait you into something else. Just a wonderful, wonderful game. I've played it like 3 times now since then. And so it is now on my need to repurchase list. Boy, got to go back and talk to that idiot guy 3 years ago and tell him to.
That is from Jason Andrews and Ananda Gupta, and I'm glad to hear you say this because I just got Imperial Struggle in, which I have been reading about, and has a lot more stuff on top of it, but also very interesting because of markets and economies and stuff. And so I'm really excited to play that. And I think Richie and I now know that it's time to get you to play The Expanse because there's a lot of the same DNA there in that game. It's just a multiplayer game. So.
Bring it on. Yeah, absolutely. So anyways, great game. I'm really enjoying it. Twilight Struggle. Definitely see why it has been in, at least close to the top 10 in the BGG top 10 or whatever of the thing for as long as it has. It is a great, great game. So, yeah, Twilight Struggle.
Well, speaking of getting smarter, Richie, I heard you played an interesting game on Friday night. One of the games that I really like. I wasn't able to get into it, but I want to hear you talk about that because I think it's a pretty good story.
Yeah, me too. I want to hear about it too.
I bet you do. Just like you told Dan that you hated him. I think I said that a couple times to Clef in this game.
Well, that was your own fault, though.
It was. I definitely went against my own instincts. And we played Dominant Species. We played a 5-player game, right?
5-player game of Dominant Species, yep.
And this is a game that, talk about, your old idiot self. This is one game that when I got into the hobby, I looked at, but I saw the amount of time that it would take, and I just avoided it. I was like, that's just way too long. But I'm glad we finally got it to the table. And in Dominant Species, you are a species, and you're trying to populate and be dominant out on the board. That's the whole goal of the game. It's an area control, worker placement game. And, basically the way that the turn works, so there's the kind of an abstract representation of Earth out there, and then you have your little cubes out there, which are your species, and then these cones, which will just show where you dominate. And the way that you dominate is just by having element discs that match your food source around it. There's a whole math thing there, but we won't get into that. But each turn, first you have a planning phase, and that's where you'll take your little action pawns, and you're going to be placing out, and I think there's 12 different actions out there that you can take, but you're going to be placing out your action pawns one at a time going around the table. And then once everyone has placed their action pawns, then you go into the execution phase, and that's where you'll resolve the actions from the top down, left to right. And like I said, there's 12 actions. I'm not going to get into all the actions. I'm just going to get into the action where I went against my instincts with Clef. and that is the way that you mainly get points in this game is when you go to score a tile, and you'll look at the population on the tile. And whoever has the most cubes there will get the points. And depending on the tile, the points may change.
Yeah.
But the real reward for this action is the dominance factor. And if you actually dominate, you don't have to have the most cubes on a tile to dominate it, but if you dominated a tile, even if you didn't score it or whoever, it doesn't matter who scored it, whoever dominates the tile gets to take one of the cards.
Yeah, gets a card.
And the cards are powerful.
They can be.
And mean.
Yeah.
And really mean.
Really, really mean. And Clef did not have a great first turn.
No. First round was not good for me.
He got kind of wiped off the map for the most part in the first turn.
Yeah, didn't even put out new species. Didn't understand what was going on. Clueless. Yeah. Bad.
It was a bad first turn.
Got to feel bad for me. Yeah.
And his second turn was looking to go about the same way, even worse.
Yeah, yeah.
But he had taken one of the actions to speciate and get his population out on the board. And I got a dominance card that let me eliminate a whole species on one tile, and then a whole species from each surrounding tile.
Yeah, adjacent tiles. Yeah.
Yes, and I could have taken out all of Clef's pieces.
Yeah, well, you took me out on the first tile.
I took you out on the first tile, and then
I gave you the puppy dog eyes.
He gave me the puppy dog eyes, and I have no clue why I was being nice. I have no clue.
Usually don't fall for the puppy dog eyes at all.
But
in fact,
Richie, I'm doing terrible. Don't kill me.
This was your first game of this, right?
Yeah. I technically played a 2-player game of it like 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years. So it's basically like his first play.
I didn't remember it at all.
It was my first play. I didn't want to put a sour taste in his mouth. Just turn 2, and we got 4 hours to go.
Well, that's smart because because then if that happens, you might happen to never get to suggest it to Clef again, right? We know what happens. That game will get sold if it's his game. So.
But like I said, he had a bad first turn, so I didn't want to just destroy him the second turn.
Right.
But of course, by not completely wiping him off the map, he then that exact same turn he scored, I think, 25 points, like 25 or 30 points.
I did,
and he had a lead for pretty much the entire game. Now we got to a point.
Pretty much the entire game.
we did get to a point though where I could have won the game, but of course Brent, he just started helping you. It became a team game between you and Brent.
It's because you were teaming up with the other, with Dan.
I would never team up. Dan wasn't even playing the game.
Not Dan. No, Dan. We got to the end of the game, and at some point I go, okay, I really think anybody could win this except for Dan.
That is true. He was out pretty early.
Because at the end of the game, you actually score for how much dominance you have. And like the round right before we were about to end, Brent had a whole bunch, and we were like, whoa.
He had like 9. Which
he could have scored
like
a ton of points. Yeah. So then we all kind of went after Brent, but then Richie started taking over a bunch in the last round, and all of a sudden, when Brent figured out that he couldn't win, then Brent decided to help me and started, beating up on Richie. And long story short, who won the game?
Long story short, I'll never be nice to you again.
No, here's the best part. You know what he says to me?
What?
He goes, we're now even for Tammany Hall.
That's true. I never want to hear about Tammany Hall again.
That's fantastic.
We're even.
Best line.
Oh, man. Never let it be said that there's not some play or meta above the table in this group.
But I really enjoyed the game.
Yeah. That was your first play, right?
That was my first play, and I do have a copy that I got in a trade, so I'm excited to try it again. And there's a Marine.
Yeah, dominant species Marine.
Which I P500 that. So.
Nice.
And that's 4-player, I think, and I think it's actually shorter, which was nice. And that's really the only sticking point with this one is that it did go long.
Well, and I think we discussed afterwards, you could probably just take out randomly like 5 cards, I think.
Yeah.
And the other thing that and this is after one play, so please don't, come and yell at me if you're a huge Dominant Species fans, but I thought instead of the Ice Age card being the very last card, it would be if it was shuffled into the last 5.
Few, yeah.
So that way you weren't, because we got to the point where there were only 2 cards left at the very. So obviously it's coming, and I wish it would have been a little bit more. Oh, it could be here. Like Brent could have snuck up and won, like if it was type of thing. So, anyways, but which, like I said, would have made it a little bit shorter. Because I agree with you, it took us 6 hours.
Yeah, about 6 hours.
Yeah,
I told you guys it was going to be a long game.
It was a long game.
And that wasn't even at the full player
There were
count.
several times where people said, oh, we're about done. And then about 3 hours later, we finished up.
Oh, man, yeah. Those later rounds really dragged and slowed because you're really trying to figure out, okay, well, if I do this and do that. But excellent game. Excellent game.
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
I mean, obviously a great game by Chad Jensen. And, unfortunately, lost a battle to
cancer last year. Yeah, it was a sad deal because he was a young guy. He's such a great designer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because the Marine one is his design. Is that right?
His design.
Yes, his design. I think his wife helped finish it up,
his
and then
partner helped him.
So definitely, that's definitely one that if you like Dominant Species, you should check out the Marine species. Is that what it's called?
It's called Dominant Species Marine, I believe.
Okay, Dominant Species Marine. So you can P500 that at the GMT website.
GMT right now. Yep.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
correct. I think it's at the printer. So They haven't charged yet, but
It's close.
You still have a little time to get in there.
Better get in there if that's interesting to you. All right.
Well, that's awesome. That sounded like some high drama for plays. I like that. What about some mailbag time? Do we got any of that?
Yeah, let's go to the mailbag.
All right.
We got a question from Nathan Fort in our Slack channel. And his question is, I know you gents are pretty hardcore Euro-style gamers. Are there any Ameritrash games that hit you in the feelers? I really think that this question is for Clef.
Oh,
don't you think?
it's got to be, right?
It's got to be for you.
I mean, obviously. I mean, let's... what's an Ameritrash game?
Those games with dice and randomness.
Dice.
And
like a coin game. I roll dice in coin games. Does that count?
I mean, war games are getting
Maybe,
closer
yeah.
to
Yeah,
that.
getting closer.
I
That
think
is
they
closer.
get their own category,
Right.
but
Pendragon is
yeah.
close.
It's got to
Not
be
really, though.
close. So, no, I mean, if there was definitely an Ameritrash, if you want to call it a hybrid, I would really say I got two games that come to mind for me. The first one would be Twilight Imperium. Certainly a game that I've played a ton. It has some good Euro stuff in it, but it's certainly an Ameritrashy game. You're definitely fighting and you're rolling dice to take casualties and stuff. So, I've played it a lot. I think they just announced that they got the expansion coming out for the 4th edition, which is cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, definitely Twilight Imperium. And then the other one that I would name, which is, I know is one of Richie's favorite games, which I'm sure he'll name here, is Kemet. I'm not even sure if you would consider that Ameritrash or not, but
I mean, it's definitely a hybrid.
yeah, I mean, you
would say.
definitely have the fighting and the stuff, and I've always enjoyed Kemet. I really like its combat system with the cards and how you have to use one card and discard one, and then you don't get your cards back. Really good, but yet still definitely dudes on a map and fighting. So yeah, that's about the best. Yeah, I can't really say anything that's pure. I don't even know what, like, is Axis and Allies, would that be Ameritrash?
I would
or?
say that's pretty
Yeah.
Ameritrash.
I'd say it fall under
Yeah,
that.
I don't like that game. So
Well, what about you, Chad?
Well, okay, so I mean, if it's in this group, I'm not getting to play a lot. Now, there are some that I'd like to try to play. Like, I'm a Star Wars fan. I know you guys aren't. I'd like to try Outer Rim because I heard it's kind of like Firefly in that way. And I think I'd enjoy just kind of flying my Boba Fett ship around or something like that, just for fun. So that might be one. But honestly, and I don't know if you guys consider this Ameritrash. Again, it might be kind of a hybrid, but I feel like Lords of Vegas is kind of Ameritrashy a little bit. I don't know. Maybe not. No, you don't think so?
No.
Okay.
That was not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
Chad, I'll give it to you. I think it's very Ameritrashy. I have no idea.
Another one that I would have on my list, I guess, that's Ameritrashy, and it is because I play with a family, is Jamaica. I feel like that kind of is.
No, I don't think you know what Ameritrash games are.
I do, but I don't have.
I pulled out better Ameritrash games than
I'm
Chad
shocked
did.
here. I'm very shocked.
I mean, you're rolling dice to fight each other, and it's a race game.
Yeah, but it's a race game.
Yeah.
It's mainly a race game.
Yeah,
let me
I think
see.
dudes on a map rolling
Yeah.
dice to
Wait,
take.
I'll go while you
All right.
keep
Yeah,
looking
you
through
go, and I'll try to see if I can, by your example, I can figure something out. I don't know.
Would have thought I'd be cut off from this question.
I know. I'm very shocked at what's happened here. So for me, I mean, Mansions of Madness is the one that I play regularly. That's a top 10 game for me. And that's also a game that Jessica really enjoys. Arcadia Quest is one that I still own. I have not played it in a long time, but I have kept it around just for when Knox is a little older and I start playing games with him because I think he would really enjoy that, picking out his guild. And but yeah, that's pure Ameritrash as well. A lot of dice rolling for combat and all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
Those are my two.
There's
So
some good Ameritrash.
We're gonna try again with Chad. We're gonna throw back to Chad. What do you got, Chad?
Should we?
Oh, man. Jeez. I'm looking at all my games, all the things that I've played, and I don't even play it that much, but I guess, you know what? I guess Finn likes to play Spectre Ops and
Nope.
and oh gosh, Dead of Winter.
Nope.
Those aren't Ameritrashy?
I would not call those
Nathan, sorry.
Ameritrash.
We'll have Chad do this another episode for you. Buddy.
Yeah.
I honestly, Nathan, I'm finding out. I guess I have nothing. I have no Ameritrash games.
Well, Chad, you got a little homework. We're gonna send Chad back.
Well, you like Kemet. Just,
Yeah,
but
there you go.
I really don't think of that as Ameritrash. I really think of that as, you are getting those powers and stuff. It's so much of a hybrid to me.
More Ameritrash than everything you named.
All right. Fair enough. Fine. All right.
Hey, Lewis
do
and
enjoy
Clark,
Kemet.
that's kind of Ameritrash.
No, that is Come on. All right. Well, anyway, thank you, Nathan, for your question. I hope the other guys could satisfy your query, even though I fell short. I do, by the way, I do have another kind of thing that I've been pondering lately, just listening to a bunch of different podcasts and people talking about the hobby and things of that nature. It has to do with video games, and I know I'm not a huge video gamer, but we did have a question about them last time even, I think, and that was interesting to think about. When I play video games right now, I play with Finn usually. We have a Switch at home, and that's what we have. We have Breath of the Wild, and I got it because everybody says it's really great, and so but I still haven't played more than an hour of it just because if I have spare time and I'm not playing a board game or I'm not playing solo or whatever, I will be reading a manual. You know what I mean? Like, or doing some other hobby, but I just don't tend to sit by myself with a video game very often. However, I know that there's a lot of crossover with board gamers and video gamers, and that's great. But what I was thinking the other day, which is kind of interesting to me, do you guys think that even though it's not as widely known, it's not widely accessible, modern board gaming anyway, do you think modern board gaming is more acceptable as a hobby than video gaming is? For adults, let's say.
If you're saying like average person who doesn't know anything about board games, they're just not going to understand. And I mean, I'm not just like, if you say to somebody, "Oh, I'm going to go play video games," everybody understands what a video game is. I mean, maybe except for some 95-year-old person or something out there. I don't know. Sorry to our 95-year-old listeners. But if you have a normal person who, if you say, "What are you doing this weekend?" you're like, "Oh, I'm going to be playing some board games," they still have the thoughts of Monopoly and Chutes and Ladders and Uno. That's their thought process. And so I don't know if I would say it's more respectable. I mean, board gaming is such a blip compared to video games. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I would say, now, like, my parents just lied to me when I was a kid, tell me not to play video games, not to stare at screens. That I could be making some real money. Like if you're Twitch streaming and stuff like that.
That's true. There's more money to be made there, whether you're a content creator or anything else.
Right. Yeah. I got a buddy that he used to manage an E-team. So, and they're going to be in the Olympics this year.
Yeah.
Or not.
Whenever the Olympics are. I think it's next year now. It's hopefully next year.
Next Olympics. Whenever the Olympics are, they're going to be in it. But yeah, like Clef said, when I say I'm heavily into board games, I either get, I get the, like Monopoly, Sorry type thing. And then if they say that, I just, yeah, sure. Like, because it doesn't matter. If I say my favorite game is Lorenzo Il Magnifico, it's just the Charlie Brown adult talking. I'm just saying words that they have zero clue what that game is. They've never seen a game like that. If I start talking to someone and they mention something that's even closer to like hobby board, like if they say Munchkin, I'm like, okay, I might be able to work with you,
right?
Because it's at least somewhat adjacent.
Yeah, they're aware.
A little bit closer, yeah.
I will say, and that's kind of an interesting side note. I had a patient the other day, and she said, "Oh yeah, I'm just tired." And I said, "Oh yeah, the new baby," because she had just had a new baby, and she said, "Well, not really. The baby went to sleep, but we stayed up late playing a board game." And I was like, "Oh, you play board games?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's see where this goes."
Right,
she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Our Twilight Struggle game went way too late last night."
Whoa!
And I was like,
oh yeah.
Hello.
See, I always get excited when I hear stuff like that. Even if it's not a game that I like, I'm like, all right, let's talk.
That's
the great thing.
But no, I guess what I'm saying is, and this is not, I will say this isn't my case. It just, that's not what I'm drawn to. I'm always curious about the hobby itself. So that's why I'm always reading manuals or doing something like that. But I'm wondering if either of you, or Richie, you probably play maybe the most video games of all of us, if you're more reluctant to say that you play video games than you are to say you play board games?
I mean, I wouldn't consider myself like a video gamer. Like I just play them offhand. And now I really I'll play Sonic with Knox, and that's pretty much, and Fall Guys with the kids. That's pretty much all I play is like those kids games with them.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I always just say that I'm a board gamer, and if they really want to know and they really want to go down that path, I might mention some games. But yeah, I'm not reluctant to bring up either, really, for me. But I would say, like, as far as acceptable in society, probably video games.
Hands down. I mean, it's a much, much bigger, obviously, world out there. And I think, I guess I would say, and maybe I'm not even answering your question right, but I think it's more acceptable to play video games because it's just more of a knowledgeable thing. I don't think anybody even has a thought process for you. You're like, yeah, I'm going to go home and play Call of Duty tonight or whatever. That's like a normal thing that most people would be like, yeah, okay, cool. That sounds awesome type of thing. Where if you say, well, I'm going to go home and play this 4-hour Euro game where I'm going to be trading resources in the Mediterranean, I mean, if you explained it that way, I think people who don't know anything are just going to be like, well, that just sounds dumb. You know what I mean? I think so. I would say no. I don't think it's more of an acceptable thing to play board games compared to video
and given that example, yeah, if I said I'm going to go play Warzone, everyone knows what I'm talking about. They don't question it, and no one cares. If I say, like, I'm going to go play, Pendragon, and then I show them a picture of Pendragon, they're like, oh, that's too much. And then they disconnect.
Okay.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, one other question I want to ask you in particular, Richie, because I know you had talked about one of the very first episodes of our podcast when we talked about how we got into gaming. You had talked about, well, hey, I was playing a lot of video games when I first met Jessica, and I wanted to do stuff together more, and so you kind of got the board game collection up and you guys started to play more and more. Is there anything, or can you tell me besides person-to-person interaction, especially with Jessica, is there anything you get from board games that video games doesn't give you, and that's kind of why you relegated it to just being with the kids then?
I don't know. I think maybe it's just over, just the evolution of my board gaming. I've just become way more invested. Obviously we're on the podcast. I have 400 games in my basement. And yeah, I do crave the interaction around the table. That's what I like. Growing up, like, video games were, you had to come over, everyone would sit down, you plug into your controllers, you're playing together. It was a huge thing when Nintendo 64 came out and you could play 4 players at the same time. But you still, like, you'd have like 8 people over, 4 people are playing, the other 4 standing around them talking with you and whatnot. So I mean, that's what I like. When it all went online and you get that disconnect, that's why I just tend to go towards board games now, because I do like that interaction.
Makes sense. Great. Well, thank you for indulging my inquiry. Clef, we have some stuff from the Punch Bunch, right? We have a new patron, is that right?
We absolutely do. But I probably better not say the name, because last time I said our new Patreon was John Rice, and I got that mispronounced. So how do you say that correctly, Chad?
Yes, he corrected us on Slack. Yeah. You didn't realize his French Canadian heritage. It is John Rice. Sorry, John. Oh. Do you want to try this one this time?
Oh, I better not. You go ahead and take it.
Okay. Darren Law.
Man, I think I could have gotten that one.
He might have. He might be wrong too, though.
That's right.
Maybe it's
find out.
Lual.
Maybe.
Well, anyways, Darren, thank you very much.
Darren.
We appreciate it very much.
Punch Bunchers, we always appreciate any of your contributions, and we know that it's not possible for everybody, but we also appreciate any bumps you give us on the social media and any recommendations to your friends about podcasts and reviews. All of those things are welcome. Thank you very much, Punch Bunch. Speaking of such things, I think this is probably a good time for a word from our sponsor.
How many times have you spent more time getting your board game set up than playing it? Well, if you have, then you need an insert from 3D BitSpace. They make great ones from Marco Polo to Grand Austria Hotel. You can even contact the owner, Ryan, about a custom insert. So head on over to Etsy.com and search 3D BitSpace. And when you order, also send Ryan an email and mention Punchboard Paradise and receive a free hex tray. Get to playing games and not setting them up. And now it's time to draft. All right, you guys ready to draft our favorite expansions?
Yeah,
That's
let's
right.
do this.
All right, Richie, tell everybody around here how we draft on Punchboard Paradise.
So in Punchboard Paradise, we like unique lists. That's why we draft. So we are going to do a serpentine draft. So all that means is if you draft last in the first round, you will draft first in the second round. We are going to roll off to see who sets the draft order.
3.
7.
Not that high.
All right. Well, I think I'm just going to go first. Clef, you want to go second?
Sure.
All right. Chad's going to go second. And
I love it.
Oh, I'm never gonna live this dominant species down.
and Clef's got the turnaround. All right. So best expansions. My list is long. There's a lot of great expansions out there. Now I did try to narrow it down to ones that not only would I never play the game without it, if someone asked about the game, like the base game, I would say buy the expansion too at the same time.
Oh, okay.
And that's just what I did. I'm not like Chad. I'm not putting on rules on you guys. I'm just saying that's what I did.
Now, did you also, because this was a curious question and that I didn't ask, but did you consider is it a true expansion, or did you consider if it was redone, where you could buy the entire game?
They made an Essentials edition or whatever.
Well, yeah, something like that, or did you just say, you buy it, it's an expansion, it goes into your main game? Was that any type of thought process?
I would say that for Ticket to Ride, if it's Nordic countries, that's a new game. But the other ones that just give you the board, and assume that you have all the other stuff to play, that's an expansion.
Okay. So if it could be played standalone in the box, then it's
exactly.
Okay, I gotcha.
That's thank you for translating.
You would not need any other pieces.
Any other pieces, then that doesn't count.
Okay. All
right. Okay, I'm good with that. I don't think any of mine fall underneath that. All right, so for my first pick, and I think I just have to choose this out of the gate, even though I might be able to wait till round 2, but maybe not.
Well, the one that I think that you're going to say right now, you would not be able to wait till round 2.
Okay, well, then I'm taking it.
Okay.
And this is what made my favorite game my favorite game. I originally played Lorenzo Il Magnifico with Chad, just the base game, and it was fine. It was a good game. But then when I think Clef bought it from Essen, or during the whole Essen thing, I don't remember where you got it from, but you got it over early.
Yeah, I think I ordered it from overseas.
You did, because then you had to have all those translations of the cards.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because it was a foreign edition. Yeah, I wanted it. I had to have it.
Yeah, and so when I got to play Lorenzo with Houses of Renaissance, that's the name of the expansion. I mean, it made it my number 1 game, and that is mainly because of the player powers, but also I love the 5th tower. I love the fact that they have the kind of roaming tower that makes things more expensive to pull from. It is just a fantastic game with that expansion. This is one where if you ask me about Lorenzo, I'm going to tell you to get both of these. I don't even know if the expansion's still in print. It better be.
Right.
And if it's not, just whatever you got to pay. Doesn't matter. Just pay whatever you got to pay.
You're never going to play the base game without the expansion.
No, and those player powers are, and the auction for the player powers are my favorite part of the expansion. But like I said, the 5th tower is great, and the way that it mixes in all the cards from the other towers, it just works out perfectly, and that is my favorite expansion. Obviously, it made it my number 1 game. So Lorenzo Il Magnifico Houses of Renaissance. That's my first pick.
That's a great pick, because I didn't like the game half as much as I do now because of the expansion. I mean, it rocketed up for me with that expansion. So yeah, I can't argue, and it was definitely near the top of my list. Speaking of being near the top of my list, for my number 1, there are very few. I'm not a pack rat, I won't say, but I'm reluctant to throw things away. But there are very few games where I will throw away the original stuff because the expansion has just totally overtaken it. But in Railroad Evolution, that's the way it is. We threw away the old board. Just Clef asked if he could do it, if he could snap it in half, because he likes to break my What's Your Game boards. And
he does.
It's kind of a hobby of mine, yeah.
And so he threw it away, and I haven't looked back. I mean, this game is much more fun now. It doesn't seem like you totally have to do the telegraph track in the same way and going up the tracks on the sides. The designers tried to patch this game because the telegraph track just seemed so easy to do, and it was a surefire win. So because of this, they kind of first edited how much you needed to spend to go up the track, but then they just came out with Railroad Evolution, and it really changed the game. It changed the synergies. It just made it a whole different game, and it's a game that's the only way ever I will play or teach the game.
Yeah, I got rid of my board. It's gone, and the other pieces that you don't need for when you're playing with the expansion are gone.
Yep, throw it all away.
Yep.
I'll never play that old version ever again.
And I was really hoping that this would go into the second round. I was hoping to snag this round too. I wasn't expecting this to go second
I wasn't
pick.
expecting Chad pull that out there either.
I really like it.
It's a great pick, though.
And you can't, I mean, here's the thing. Like, it's not only is it a good expansion, it's just like I said, it is so integral to playing that game now. You just cannot separate it. So that's why it's my number one pick out of what's here.
All right.
So, yes, Railroad Evolution from Railroad Revolution, my number one pick. What you got, Clef?
All right. Well, I'm ready for the swing. And the first game that I'm going to take, and this is definitely not even probably on Chad's list, but it's definitely on Richie's list. And this is one of Richie and I's just favorite games, just play against each other. And it was a great game beforehand, but the expansion has solidified it as even a better game. And we just actually recently got to have a chance to play with the, what were those cards? Well, they had player powers. And
the exploration
deck or whatever. And the game I'm talking about is Santa Maria. It's a dice drafting game where you're placing tiles on a board, and it's a resource game, but it's just very thinky and just it's just a really solid game. And they came out with an expansion that has a bunch of different modules in it. And Richie, we haven't even gotten through all the modules in it.
No, we haven't.
There's
one big one that we have not tried yet.
But they've got some new tiles that you can place on the board, and then they've got this cocoa that allows you to do different things, and some new shipping. They've even got this piece called the Governor that when Richie and I play with him, we just sit there and curse at him the whole game, but it's enjoyable. It's a
Yeah,
cool new puzzle that you get to play with. So I just love everything about this expansion, and it just made a great game even better. So my number one pick is Santa Maria.
No, I actually did not put this on my list.
What?
I didn't.
I am.
Because you forgot, or
No, not because I forgot. I love the cocoa, and I love the new scoring tiles. The Governor, like you said, we're usually cursing at him. I don't necessarily have to play with the Governor. I also don't necessarily have to play with those little tiles that come out with that. So that's why, just because I wouldn't necessarily, I'll play base Santa Maria, no problem. Now, if I'm playing with you, we're going to play with those modules.
Okay. So I think I at least teach everybody the cocoa part. So I mean, I
like the cocoa and the new tiles.
Yeah,
the new scoring
tiles. Yeah.
Everything else is still good, and I still want to try that new module. But
even to me, they made it where you no longer lose happiness points on the top. I mean, I just think that they improved all the way around. So
it is good.
All right. So I guess I didn't need to worry about picking that one. So
well, congratulations on Santa Barbara.
So Santa Maria.
Okay, sorry.
All right. Well, so for my second pick, now this goes a little bit different here because, and this is probably not anybody's list, so maybe I don't have to take it either, because I love the base game and I will play the base game. In fact, I've made an expansion for the base game myself, but the expansion for this game is still absolutely amazing, and it took a game that I had played a ton and made it even better. And Richie takes his number one game. I'm going to take my number one game, and that's going to be former number one game.
Yeah, he doesn't even know.
So who knows? Whatever. In my top
who
three.
Who knows what Maracaibo is nowadays?
No, that's Great Western Trail rails
to the north.
To the north.
It is on my list.
Okay,
I love that game with the expansion.
It is so good. The game is still the same game, but yet it has such a different feel. It's so much different of how you getting your discs up there, and it just really just made just enough of a twist to excite me, and I like to play it. But I'll still play it is base, but I think most of the time I would like to play with the expansion. In fact, I got to work on some player powers for the expansion.
With the expansion? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I guess you just lost our main man Evan Scussel's vote. So, hey, Evan, you can vote for me, buddy.
How did I lose Evan's vote?
Hey, he doesn't like that expansion. Makes the building strategy too easy.
So, you come play me, Evan. We'll see what happens. All right, all right. What? Hey,
I like it because it opens up strategy, and it does make the building strategy easier, just depending on how
depends on how the tiles come out, what comes out, which
it's
buildings.
not a guarantee. It can still be tough, but especially like in a 2-player game, the building strategy is. It's hard because the game's just going to go way too quick.
The wonderful thing about Great Western Trail is there is no dominant strategy. That all depends on the layout of the board, how the neutral buildings come out. There is so many different levels in that game, and it's one of the reasons why I love it so much. I mean, I guarantee. I mean, if I had to play it 70 play. In fact, I just ran out of the scoring pads in my copy. I literally had to email and get a new thing for the scoring pads. I don't know how many I think there's 100 100 things in the scoring pad. I don't even know. So that's literally, I've played it that many times, and yeah, so great game. Love the expansion. So that's Great Western Trail, Rails to the North. All right, back to you, Chad.
All right. Well, with my second pick, I'm going to pick a game that I love. I love this game. I just, for whatever reason, I do not get to play it as much as one would think for how much I really enjoy this game. It's got a good online implementation, but this expansion really ups the ante for me, and that is Helmut Oli and Leonard Orgler's Russian Railroads. German Railroads turns this up a notch, makes the game not quite so rote. In the base game, there's a kind of a way that is recommended to go, I feel like, in that Trans-Siberian Railroad. And you can certainly, there's interaction out there on the board for worker placement spots, but there are certain actions that you always want to take or want to get to first, those kinds of things. But German Railroads adds enough in that you feel like you can go down different paths when you play this game back to back, for example. And so German Railroads really ups the ante. I like American Railroads too, but German Railroads was the first to do it and the first to add plenty of stuff. It's got an interesting solo mode too if you're into solo. So German Railroads for Russian Railroads is my number 2 pick.
Yep, I got it on my list, and I love that you can personalize your track as you go down it, and you get those options to add on onto it. So
anytime you're adding stuff that feels like it's uniquely yours is always great, and that's what really opens up the game a little bit.
Yeah, and it's here lately we've been playing with some of our Punch. We've been playing Russian Railroads on Board Game Arena, and it's just the regular base game, and I'm just like.
You don't like Yukata, but Yukata does have German and American rails on there.
No Yukata for me.
And, by the way, and I also think in the rule book it says, like when you get to that solo part, it says, this is available on yukata.de. Go play it there, basically. Like don't waste your time setting it up. But
okay. By the way, it's been like 2 days. It's your turn in Nations, so.
I know that when you throw in a new site, like that's such a random one-off site, it's hard for me to remember to go back to it. But great pick, Chad.
All right. Well, what do you have next? Going around the turn.
All right. So for my second pick, I'm going to go with the Suburbia Inc. And this is, I think I talked about Suburbia last episode, but with the Suburbia Inc., what it does, and it's a city building game, but what it does and what makes it such a great expansion is that it adds the borders. So where these borders are super powerful, they give you, either a lot of money or a lot of points, but you start to hem in your city. So it makes it more difficult for you to actually build your city going out. And just that part of the expansion alone makes it one of my favorite expansions. But it does also add new tiles, new ways to score that mix it up. It also adds these little like bonus tiles that you're going for, like by the end of round, or by the time you get to the B stack, and by the time you get to the C stack, if you accomplish these goals, you'll get a different bonus. So it just adds just enough to mix it up. And like I said, with those borders, it makes it really interesting on where you can slap on a border, you're going to get a ton of points, but now you are, your city can only grow one way, and you can add as many borders as you want and get creative with it, but I mean, you really got to be careful when you start throwing those in. And it really makes the game interesting. Suburbia Inc. for my second pick.
I really actually I like this game. I have not played it but once, unfortunately, but I love the play I had of it because I do like how it hems you in and makes you make some tighter decisions. And then, of course, like I said, finding some of the combos with the new tiles in there is even more fun. I mean, that's the fun of that game, and it adds to the escalation. So I did not expect you to pick that pick, but I definitely can see why you like it.
And for my third pick, I'm going to go with Caverna, the Forgotten Folk. And that is one where it adds player powers, which is always something that I'm for. Every game should have player powers. I don't care what the game is. Throw player powers in. It's going to make the game better.
I'll just start making them for every game.
There we go. But it throws the player powers in, and it fixes what is an issue if you've played that game a lot, is the fact that the building display does not change. All the buildings are always available at the beginning of every game. So if you have developed a strategy and you know exactly how to get to a particular tile in a certain amount of turns, it's hard to change your strategy up. Whereas with this, depending on what factions you're using, that will change the different buildings that are in that display, and that fixes it for me. I know that there's other random variants out there, but for me, I like the official change that they made with that. And like I said, that changing up that building display and adding the player powers makes that just an essential expansion for me.
Hey, this got Clef to play Caverna again, so
that's right. And he actually enjoyed
worth it in itself.
Yeah, I really did. As you said, player powers just is something I enjoy, so it definitely enhanced that. But I also like how it limited the buildings, so you weren't looking at 500 different things to build. It kind of lowered. So yeah, good pick.
And I also like with the player powers, because some of the player powers also have a negative, which I do like that as well in games where you have some super power, but there is something that you now have to worry about or is going to score you negative points if you don't keep it under control.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yep.
So that's my third pick, Caverna, the Forgotten Folks. Chad.
My next pick is a game that, I'll talk about a lot of times with these engine building games or certain games, we feel like, oh gosh, I didn't get to do enough in the game yet. I didn't get to do everything I wanted to do. But that's a good feeling. You want to leave with some of that. You don't want to feel like you did everything. Otherwise, there's not enough tension in the game. One game that felt like it actually needed another round or two was Hospital Connect.
No!
So I would just say that Hospital Connect, the Ruhr Valley, added just enough to give that extra turn or two to the game, made it so that you could do more. More importantly, it added some technology tiles so that you could switch things up, because there was really just kind of one pure setup for the technology tiles. And so after a few plays, you had kind of gotten used to that and kind of gotten on a rote path. But now with some of the new tiles, it mixed it up a little bit and made it more fun to kind of explore a little bit and see what you were going to do, how you're going to bolster your mind versus how far you're going to go on some of those achievements and that kind of stuff. Hospital Connect really, really benefited from the Ruhr Valley. And again, with my picks, the way I kind of treated them were games that I just don't want to play without the expansion, and that's another one right there.
I obviously could not agree more. I mean, I don't even ever think of that game with, it's not even the expansion to me. That's just how you play the game, and I would never play it without it. So, great pick.
Solid pick.
Well, good thing I've got 20 other games on my list. Okay. So I'm going to go with my next game is a What's Your Game? And it's a great expansion. It came out in March through Kickstarter, and that's for Madeira. Okay, never mind. Yeah, it hasn't come out yet. All right.
You forgot to say in 2023.
In 2023, when that expansion comes out, it will be amazing. All right. So, but my next pick is going to be a game that I once again have been playing this on Board Game Arena as the base game, and when I'm playing as a base game, I'm like, it just doesn't quite have all the stuff that I love. And that is going to be The Voyages of Marco Polo. I love the expansion in that game. I love the extra board. I love if you really want to talk about it, there's a whole bunch of like mini expansions that have come out that have the different new player powers in them. And then there's the extra deck that came out, what's it called? Secret Passages?
Secret Passages,
yeah,
something
Secret
like that.
Passages, which I just think is a fantastic addition. Really, the only thing that I don't love playing with are those. I don't even know those.
Oh, I forgot what they're called because we just don't play with them.
Yeah.
Those
things. Yeah. So, besides that, though, all the rest of it I love, and it makes the game just over the top for me. And so I would never play without all the extras. Even if I was teaching this game, I would throw all that stuff in. So it is a must for me. The actual main expansion is called Agents of Venice. And so, wonderful expansion for the Voyages of Marco Polo.
That is a great expansion. I did not have it on my list just because I like all of it. Like I like all the mini expansions and all that together. Like I don't necessarily just like that one, expansion.
I'm with you. I like those mini powers and stuff.
Yeah, like really I just want the powers if I can be honest.
But that's still an expansion.
No. It's valid for the list. I'm not saying it's not valid for the list. I'm just it's a good pick.
All right.
He was getting defensive.
No.
He's still salty at going third.
All right. And for my last pick, once again, and I mean, sometimes some of these drafts, obviously, we're going to be picking some of the games that we obviously love. And this is one of the games that I have loved, and I've loved this game for a long time, and literally would not ever play this game without the expansion. It's just part of the game, and that is going to be Nations Dynasties. So the Dynasties added new countries, which were basically more player powers, and they also added dynasty cards, so you could switch your dynasty to different things. And they also added turmoil cards, which just gave you more, options in the game. And I once again, I would never play the game without the expansion. And in fact, it's the only expansion that I purchased 2 copies of, because on one of the boards, it might have Japan on one side and Korea on the other. Well, that means if I only had 1 copy of it, we could never have a game that had both Korea and Japan. So I bought 2 copies so that we have an option to have both of them in the game at the same time. Yeah, I mean, that's literally how much I love it. And so I'm going to finish it off with Nations Dynasties.
Yeah, I figured that was going to be on your list.
Yeah,
and obviously you don't need to worry about it just because we have not
one of you
gotten
guys
any
take it,
enough plays of it. So.
Yeah, and I was thinking about maybe going another route, but I'm like, if I'm really talking about my favorites, that one's got to be on there. So, so Nations Dynasty. All right, back to you, Chad.
Well, so I've been pretty consistent so far with my list. I have picked games that, like I said, I won't play without, adding this into the base game. I just won't. This one, I guess, I can't say that. It's not a must, but it's certainly a like. And it probably is a placeholder for a few different things, but I'm just gonna use it. I'm gonna say the 2017 map pack of Alban Biard's for Age of Steam. So I really like those map packs, which has Mars on it. It does have Sweden on it, which does run a little bit long, but the rest of the maps are really, really great.
I'm out of here. I'm outraged.
I think you have to pick one map.
Okay.
I agree.
All right.
I think you
I
have to
agree.
pick one map.
How about this then? DR Congo with the fires and stuff across there, which I think is really interesting.
Wrong map. But
Wrong map, but okay.
All right,
That's what you want to pick.
I like that map.
DR Congo. Okay. Oh man.
I did have.
That's a whole expansion though.
No, I put a map on my list.
Did you?
I put the Holland Madagascar map. I really liked Holland. And I'm really interested to play. I haven't played Madagascar yet, but I'm really interested to play. I just put it on my list though, as if I'm out of stuff, I'll go to Age of Steam maps.
I put it on my list also, but then I just thought to myself, it's the entire all the maps, so I couldn't just pick a single thing.
Well, that's why I picked a map pack that you can actually buy like that, like not separate, but like that 2017
But you
map
can
pack.
purchase them separate still.
You
too.
could purchase them separately, but you get them as a pack.
It's a questionable pick.
Oh boy!
Glad I didn't say my Age of Steam map.
Hey, great game though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I'm curious, what map did you write down?
Which Berlin?
Berlin?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I love that.
Is that Alvin VR
still
too?
my number one? No, I don't think
it is.
so.
It
No,
was actually in those boxes, right?
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah. No, my favorite Alvin VR is Sweden. So even if it does go a little long for Chad, not the rest of us, but yeah, that's my favorite from him. And well, I like the Moon a lot.
Yeah. I looked at that
Moon
one from
is
2014.
so good.
That
Yeah,
had some good ones too.
boy, such a mind. Yeah, word I can't say. All right.
All right. Well, I took the 2017 Age of Steam map.
No,
pack.
you took the
No,
Congo.
you took DR Congo.
You can purchase that all as one expansion. That's not cheating.
Which, if you,
I think that's cheating.
I think it's definitely cheating.
We'll let the Punch Bunch decide.
So,
All right.
I'm actually surprised you didn't pick. I guess I can just say because I'm the last one.
Yeah, I
picking
know what
here.
you're going to take, and I thought about it.
I'm not gonna take it. I'm gonna.
No.
I'm gonna be stupid and go with my heart, even though that got me 5% of the vote or 10% of the vote, whatever it was last time.
we're not worried about winning.
No,
the
I'm not worried
draft.
about winning.
We're picking our games here.
Not for 10 more minutes at
But-
least. We're not.
But please vote for me, please.
So have you not played Tea and Train, the Fields of Arle yet?
Yeah, we played it together.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't pick that. I
no,
thought that would have been up on your list.
It is on my list. I mean, there were some other ones. I think we should do one quick honorable mention, but yeah, it's on my list. But yeah, there are just so many, and I like I said,
So many.
yeah,
Yeah, there is a lot, and like I said, I'm about to do something stupid, and I'm going to take a mini expansion, but it
wow.
is, it's I love it. So Mombasa Cookbooks mini expansion.
I wondered
makes
if
sense
you
for
would
you.
take it.
I'm taking it.
Yeah.
You got it. Go for it.
I'm going to let you do it.
that is
yep.
pure Richie, and
It's
that's
one,
where your
it's one
heart
of my
is.
favorite expansions. It's hard to find. I'm not gonna lie to you, but if you can find it, buy it. It's just a small little mini expansion that makes the book track more viable. And now, I mean, playing the game as much as we have, I can win on the book track without this, but this just makes it a. I have beat you without.
Allegedly. All right.
But this just makes it a more viable route to victory, and in my opinion, makes the game more interesting because of that.
Helps it out. I mean,
Yes,
the book the book thing that you can go put your pawn on to get.
Yeah, which just gives you coins.
Helps you out for sure.
Yep.
Yes, I will totally agree.
Yeah, so like I said, it is one that I'm always going to throw it in.
I think you beat me with it when you and Corey Eklund both teamed up on
I
the books.
beat you at least 3 times on the book track. And it's not just straight books. And anyone out there who wants to know how to win with the book track, it's not just straight books. You're going to move your book track maybe 2 or 3 times during the whole game, but you're going to do books and diamond. That's what you need to focus on. And then just make sure no one gets crazy, because Clef likes to go crazy on one stock. So if that happens,
Clef likes to win the game.
just knock him down. I don't think he won last time.
Well, I'm going to the phone right now.
I like that. I like that pick for you. I think that's a good pick.
All right, so that's my
and a
last
great
pick,
game.
the Mombasa Cooked Books mini expansion.
I have to say, though, I am surprised you did not pick Orleans Trade and Intrigue.
I didn't, just because it's just the board. Like, there's other stuff in that, and it's just the one side of the board that I love.
But that's so huge.
I know it is, but I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say that you have to have that, although I would always want to play with it.
It's good,
but
yeah.
you can get into it elsewhere.
Just real quick, an update. I just wanted to look at my phone and set some things right. Richie has won the last 3 games. All right. that didn't help me.
All right. Do you have an honorable mention while you're here? Give us one honorable mention here.
Sure. Okay. I'll give you a few. I definitely put down Stockpile. I would never play the game without the expansion.
And the reason being because those dice make it so that you don't have the same things that you would expect to get with the stocks the way they change.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I threw down Deus. I don't know if it's a game that not a lot of people know, but it completely changes the deck. Like, you remove the entire deck and add a new deck in, and then you got a few other things or whatever. But I used to play Deus a lot, and when you got that new deck, it really changed it up. So Deus a lot.
Egypt, I believe it's called Egypt even, and that makes Deus more of a Richie game because it's a little bit more aggressive. Some of those cards have more aggressive powers to them.
Yeah, you'd almost say it's like an Ameritrash game for Chad.
Fair enough.
And then, my last honorable mention for sure, Twilight Imperium, would be 100% a game that, the expansion, at least for, Twilight Imperium 3 back in the day, the expansions were great expansions and really made a lot of cool things with the games. And, so I definitely would say that. So, there's a few honorable mentions. How about you, Richie?
I had Keyflower, The Merchants. That's my favorite of those two expansions.
I haven't played it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you need to play. I think you would really enjoy that, actually. I actually even had Port Royal, just one more contract. I really like the contracts after that game.
Yeah.
And then obviously I already said Tea and Trade for Fields of Arl is another really good expansion.
I'm surprised you didn't have Norwegians from Feast for Odin on there.
I've only played the base game of that. I haven't had a chance to play the expansion yet.
Okay.
And maybe a reason why it's not on his list.
Yeah, I guess so. That's I think that really opens up strategies, though, so that's interesting.
What about you, Jed?
Two that I had are Viticulture Tuscany. I mean, and again, Richie considers that the only way to play the game so much that he just framed his old board. So he didn't throw it away, but he just framed his old board and never uses. So that helped with the card draw a little bit. I know that there's still card draw in that game that can kind of mess you over, but you can use more of the cards in more of the places with that game.
Yeah.
And then I still really like, and I know we're getting a new version of it, but I still really like Bruges Cities on the Zwin, which allows you to do the canal strategy a little bit more. So I know you don't care for that game anymore, but
so that's a game. Some of the big ones that we know, buddy, obviously Dominion, Ticket to Ride, Catan even, Catan would have been probably one of the first games that started coming out with new and different expansions or whatever that kind of paved the way.
What's the city one? What's the city one?
Cities and Nights.
Yeah, Cities and Nights. That's because I used to play the app. That was like one of the first apps I ever bought, and I used to play City and Nights on there a ton. And it is a good expansion for that.
Yeah.
I just don't play Catan that often.
Yeah, 100%.
Or ever, really, anymore.
Yeah. And then I just thought of one quick other honorable mention that, I don't need to play because I can play the base game, but boy, talk about it makes it more of a gamer's game, is the Isle of Skye, the Journeyman.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is
that
really
definitely
good
changes
one,
the game completely.
Yeah, so. All right, so there is our pick. So Richie chose Lorenzo El Magnifico, Houses of Renaissance, Suburbia Inc., Caverna Forgotten Folks, and then the Mombasa mini expansions, the cookbooks. That's the cooked books. Chad chose Railroad Evolution, Russian Railroads German, Haspel Connect, the Ruhr Valley, and Age of Steam. The map he chose was DR Congo. All right, and I chose Great Western Trail, Rails to the North, Santa Maria, American Kingdoms, and then The Voyages of Marco Polo, Agents of Renaissance, and finally Nations Dynasties.
Solid draft.
All right.
I applaud you, fellas. Let's see who wins. And by the way, we will have this posted as we always do on our guild on Board Game Geek, Guild 3227. So if you want to vote on the winner, you can do so. So now, speaking of stuff on our guild, though, let's go to our guild and have the Punch Bunch help us out. We're going to look at Punchboard previous plays, and a little over a year ago now, we had a double feature of Feld. We had Carpe Diem and Forum Trajanum. So let's look at that.
So let's just go around the horn and talk about our former ratings, and anything would change. So for me, I gave Forum Trajanum a 2. I'll be quite honest with you. I haven't thought about this game. I haven't looked at this game. I sold it. I haven't done anything with it since the review. So I don't really feel like I can change my rating to something different just because, I've done nothing for it. So I'm going to just keep it at a 2. Carpe Diem, I gave a 5 to. And honestly, I think Carpe Diem is still a very solid game. Has it gotten played very much over the past year? No, not really. I played a game maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I still was like, yeah, it's a solid game. It's very good. I mean, it's got some nice mechanisms. Sure, it still has terrible colors on the back of the tiles and, issues with being able to tell some things with the graphic design. But the game is still solid. But I think realistically, I'll probably bring it down to a 4 is probably where it will settle, and I think that's probably where it'll end up, for the future. So I'll move Carpe Diem down to a 4. What about you, Richie?
So I rated Forum a 2. I think the only reason I got a 2 is because I enjoyed throwing stuff at Chad during the game.
Yeah, that's awful fun.
If I remember correctly. And I think at some point I said that I should have rated it a 1. So I will just go ahead and give it that 1.
All right.
I was miserable during the game.
Okay.
So we'll take that down to a 1. For Carpe, I still play it quite a bit online because now it's on Yukata, so I play that on there all the time. And it's still just a great little game. I love that scoring mechanism. That is something that I just want to see in other games. I mean, just on that alone, I'm going to keep it at the 5 because, like I said, I still love that scoring mechanism, and I still play it quite frequently online. What about you, Chad?
Well, I initially rated Carpe Diem at a 2 because of the horrible design, artistic design issues, and the fact that after I played it a couple of times, I just wasn't interested in the scoring mechanism and didn't really care that much to play it again. That can stay pat at a 2 for me. I think that's true. Forum Trajanum, I will say I rated it a little bit higher. The reason that I did so, I think, is because I was getting so much crud from Richie and Clef. So I will say that
we were right.
Yes, we were right.
So I will say that it does drop a little bit in my estimation. I probably put it at borderline 3-4, and
yeah, when you're borderline, where do you go?
I call it a high 3 is what I'd call it. Yeah. So yeah, it's a 3. Neither of these games was just like gotta have it fascinating in the long run. I think when you have more games, it's just sort of like they're not doing anything really fascinating. So
yeah,
so we were right. That's all I just wanted.
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, sure.
That.
Your time is coming, buddy.
Okay, so
poor Bryce right now. He's yelling at the radio at us right now.
Well, speaking of Bryce, why don't you read what Bryce had to say? He was one of the punch bunch that weighed in for us.
Absolutely. So Bryce said, Carpe Diem and Forum Trajanum continue to remind me why Feld is the bestest, most awesomest designer of all time. Carpe Diem is slightly more standout title of the pair due to the truly innovative scoring mechanism. I rated a 5 on the Punchboard rating scale because it was a top 10 game of the year for me. It just barely makes my top 10 Feld lists of all time, which is a very difficult list to compile, let me tell you. Forum Trajanum falls into the bottom quarter of the Feld games to me, which still makes it better than 95% of the other games in existence.
Wow.
I continue to like it more and more each time I play it, though, and keep finding new things to appreciate about it. I particularly love the non-stop agonizing decisions to make. With its personal estimation rising, I would put it at a high 4 on the Punchboard scale.
All right. Well, thanks,
There
Bryce.
comes from a true Feld lover right there.
True Feld fan right there.
95% of the other games in existence.
Very strong.
Wow.
Very strong stance.
All right.
We had another comment in our guild from Muhammad, and he listed the cons and pros, so I'm going to go over those real quick. So his cons, and he had not played Forum yet, so this is just for Carpe Diem. His cons for Carpe Diem are lackluster art. Definitely. The color palette is imperceptible. He said the light green versus the slightly darker green. That is definitely true. I ended up marking mine. That was the only way just to make that work, because especially if you're in low light, it's terrible.
Right.
Error on one of the frames. And then he just talked about how he had to add distinguishing marks to that as well. His pros were that it's quick and straightforward gameplay, well-written rule book, scales for player count. And then he says, I really like how scoring is done via the cards at the end of the round, and even more so how the turn order impacts who gets to place the disc and scores first. And then he kind of gave a too long didn't read. Carpe Diem is a pretty good game. He owns the first edition with the star. Oh, yeah, I forgot that they completely changed that to just a circle going around. I also have the star edition, but...
Yeah, that's interesting how they changed that. Did you hear how they changed that? So for Rado, that totally changed his view of Carpe Diem.
He dropped it out of his top 10 for the year because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
No,
More power to Rado.
It's
I
all
don't
right.
know.
I love me some Rado. All right. The last person we'll talk about on our guild, Stephen E. said, both are something between a 4 or a 5 for me, probably closer to the 5. Both offer a great mix of short-term and long-term planning. Both have tight decisions every turn. I've played Carpe Diem a whole lot more because 1, I've had it longer. 2, easier to set up. I'll agree with that for sure. 3, I can introduce it to new gamers. Yeah, it is definitely the lighter of the 2. Of the 2, I might prefer Forum Trajanum just because there is so much to consider in every turn. I remember one of the main criticisms of FT was the overpowered slide bar strategy. Here's a very interesting thread in which others discovered a different strategy that seems more overpowered for those interested. Reading it almost feels like spoilers to a good movie. And I actually read that. It's very interesting. He talks about setting up your envoys correctly and gray column scoring and stuff like that. So that slide bar really isn't overpowered once you play the game a little bit more, kind of like we talked about. But thank you, Punch Bunch, for weighing in on that. So if you haven't, please join our guild. It's a great place to talk about things. And I will, being as I was curious about that discussion about video games, I'll even post a question up there to anybody who wants to weigh in on whether they play video games and board games and how they feel about that in the hobby and where that intersects for them too. But yeah, please feel free to join us. We only have one thing left on the docket for this evening, I think, right?
I believe we do just have one thing left on the docket. And that's to say goodnight to everybody.
No.
Thanks, buddy.
I was trying for you since you let me into the dominant species
Yeah,
game.
sure.
I was trying to get you out of it.
We have to go back and talk about the winners of the draft. Richie, you usually give us the percentage.
Yeah, and I got them pulled up here.
Okay.
Chad came in with a commanding 65.2% of the vote.
Hey, that
So,
Magic the Gathering was a great pick.
That was a great pick. That
Great
was
pick.
definitely a great pick. Clef came in second with 23.9% of the vote, and my 2 small card game picks were probably not great
Yeah.
for the draft.
Our ego sounds like a Muppet. And so, yeah.
It's a fantastic Muppet. I got third with 10.9% of the vote. And so I'm ready for my punishment. I do want to say the Magic pick was great. That was a
great
fantastic pick.
It was a fantastic pick.
And I can't.
Don't try to
We're
butter
gonna
me
do
up.
that.
I'm not trying to butter you up. I'm
right.
just the next thing I'm about to say. It may sound like a threat.
Oh.
It's not a threat.
Oh.
It's just a reminder on who is the sole editor of this podcast.
I knew that would come up.
And
I knew that would come up.
also,
This
who,
segment may not even make it onto the
also who has hours and hours of unedited podcast material that
Ooh.
could come out at any time. Who knows? I'm just, like I said, not a threat, just a reminder.
Wow.
Just a fact. Just a fact.
Chad can go ahead and dole out his
Well,
punishment.
I would like to put
the
Richie
Nerf
as a
gun at me.
Nerf gun.
Once again, I'm the sole editor. They may not even hear that. This is not a visual medium. It's just audio.
He came over here with a Nerf gun. He brought it over on his person. I don't know how he made it past the front door, but he brought it over on his person, and he just cocked that Nerf gun at me.
So I'm just, this is just Knox slipped this in my pocket when I left, and I figured I'd pull it out and just wave it around as Chad decided on my punishment.
This is the worst Ameritrash game ever.
Don't back off, Chad. Don't
not
back
gonna.
off.
And good trigger discipline. The finger is not on the trigger. I'm just pointing that out.
All right.
But go ahead.
Okay. Well, what I would like to hear is because I have some incriminating evidence. I have some phone messages. I want you to apologize for bringing up something, making me apologize for you having taken a turn once in 2 weeks on this 18XX game and then making me apologize for it going long. I want you to apologize specifically and say, I am sorry that I am not good at taking my turn at 18XX and therefore making the game go much longer. And also including people making other players text me more than once to take my turn.
Okay, that's not that bad. I'll take that. I'll put the gun down.
That
All
was
right.
it? Oh, Chad,
All right,
I expected much better than that.
All right, I will admit the fact that game took about 6 months, that was definitely my fault. That there were a couple of times where I honestly forgot that we were playing that game and I did not care. and somehow I even still won that game. I don't know how that's possible. But
that's because I was so focused on dumping a company on Clef, which worked but didn't help.
Didn't even realize it happened.
No, I didn't even realize that happened. No, that was definitely a tough game to get through for me, and I do apologize that I stretched it out as long as I did. That may also happen in Nations because I keep forgetting to go to that site. I'm just going to throw that out there. So
you're pre-apologizing to me too?
Pre-apologizing for that. if you happen to win next month, or if you happen to win next episode.
All right.
So there. I apologize.
I think that's good. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all the other stuff that you got off your chest, and I appreciate that you put down the Nerf gun. So,
what was that person at your work, or is it a patient that listens to us and says, "It sounds like you guys do a lot of bickering"?
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Nailed it.
So, Punch Bunch, we have done now, I think this is the third draft we have done in a row, and the reason why we have done so many drafts in a row is because our next review that we have coming up is for Food Chain Magnate, the ketchup expansion.
Yes.
And for any of you who know, I mean, Food Chain Magnate is obviously not a quick game, but the expansion has, I don't know, like 15, 16, 17 modules, something like that in
Oodles.
it.
Oodles. A lot.
Oodles. Yep. And we are trying to get every single thing played so that we can really do a good, decent review. So that's kind of why we've been doing a few drafts here in a row, just so we can get that. But we're going to be ready for the next episode. We are going to bring you the review for Food Chain Magnate, the ketchup expansion.
That's right. Hope y'all like kimchi. In the meantime, Punch Bunch, take care of yourselves and each other.
All right, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks for listening.
Punchboard Paradise would like to thank our loyal listeners as well as the publishers and designers that have provided review copies. You can find us at punchboardparadise@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at Punchboarders. We are on Instagram at Punchboard Paradise and Facebook at Punchboard Paradise.
Eeksa mama!